News Center 5 tonight, your complete news update with Natalie Jacobson, Chet Curtis.
They've been seated side by side for many years. Natalie and Chet have brought us not only the news over the years, but they've shared their time, love, and concern for New England. They are a team. They are partners. Please welcome Chet Curtis and Natalie Jacobson.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
We went on a search. Oh, well.
I didn't recognize that lady with the long hair. I was looking
know,
up
who
at
was
the
that
monitor.
woman?
When was that?
1,000 years ago.
No.
I think.
Oh,
Was
you're
that
like
10
great.
years ago? 12
Well,
years
actually
ago?
12, 1972.
When you first began, huh?
That's right.
Can I share the phone call? Last night, Nat called me right before she went on the 11 and said, what are we supposed to do tomorrow? And I said, just relax. And you said, I can't imagine a whole hour.
I'm a wreck on me and Chet. I was up half the night.
First of all, are you usually up and about at this hour?
No. Unless
yes.
Lindsay is.
Yeah, we're generally up, but not,
Not
dressed
about.
and clocked and all of that.
Yeah, well, with a baby. With Lindsay, you would be up, right?
We are, Jenna. Her sleeping schedule has changed a little. She's really adapted to us, though. She used to go to bed around 10 or 11 and get up around 10, which was heaven for people who go to bed at 2. But the clock has kind of turned a little closer to 7 or 8 in the morning.
As they get older. Take us back to the days when the two of you met. What did you find in each other personally that just clicked with both of you, made you fall in love, do you think?
It really wasn't love at first sight for us.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and
It wasn't. I'm being very honest. I resented the fact that this young woman, I know this sounds sexist, but I have to be honest, who had been in the business, all of 3 months, was co-anchoring a newscast.
3.5
but you hadn't
years.
been doing, but you hadn't been doing a newscast, and I actually resented that, and I was a little uptight about it. And
That's
I'll
true.
be very honest with you.
Really?
And it was, and my respect for her first professionally grew. But I've talked about that before, and we've talked about. We laugh about it now, but it was.
How
it was
did,
kind of a tense thing at
how
the
did he
beginning.
seem at first, Nat? Did he have a chip on his shoulder?
if he had it, I didn't notice it, but that maybe was because I was, new to news. Chet's right. I came in. I had not done a newscast before I came here. I had worked at Channel 56 and Channel 4 as a producer in various areas, including a news magazine show, but I had never done this end of the business before. I respected him. I thought he was terrific at his job. I was probably scared to be working next to somebody who had a lot of experience.
Did you defer to him? Because in those days, before the women's movement and all of this stuff about we will not defer to men, do you think you found yourself doing that?
No, I don't think so. I was so excited to finally be in news, which is what I'd wanted to do for so long. I finally had a shot at it, that I was just too busy having a good time and learning a lot about this end of the business.
Defer only in a professional sense, in that, and it had nothing to do with, with the feminist movement or male-female. It was just someone who had not had the experience of working in news.
The decision to get married, did it occur to you at all at the time that, I'm sure it occurred to you, but did it seem like a problem that you'd be working together as well as living together? Did you talk about that before you got married?
Sure.
Yeah, we did.
Management had something to say about it.
What did they have to say about it? So, in some places, management would just put the kibosh on that right away.
Yeah, they were very supportive, actually. But there were some concerns at first about, how that was going to work out, and being married and working together and working in the same department. As it turned out, for most of our first 5 or 6 years of married life, we didn't work the same hours, and we almost rarely saw each other.
That's tough.
I really wasn't all that worried about it, and we've thought about it since, and in retrospect, I think that it has worked with no problems for us or the company, because we both already were in this business. It wasn't as though Natalie and Chet went to Philadelphia and suddenly started, anew there. We already were in this business as individuals. We're already bringing our own credibility and backgrounds to a job. Plus, we'd been here for a couple of years before there was us. When he finished getting mad at me, he fell in love with me. And he was resenting me.
You know what we have? We have some tape that I don't think has ever been shown on television before. This is Chet and Nat's wedding. Listen to this.
Gosh, I haven't seen this for years.
This is a Good Day News Center exclusive.
Now that Chet and Natalie have given themselves to each other by solemn vows, with the joining of hands and the giving and receiving of rings, I pronounce that they are husband and wife.
I was There is no, I don't know how you, just euphoria.
Fear?
No, oh no, no fear at
No
that
fear?
moment. No, the fear came before, you know. Once you make the decision, it's
Where'd you go on your honeymoon?
a place called Peter Island
You should pardon the expression.
in the British Virgin.
And you should again pardon the expression, in the British Virgin Islands.
What was the reaction of viewers when you got married? Did you get a lot of mail and phone calls, this is terrific, or?
We did, yes,
Yeah.
lots of congratulations. And we were kind of surprised by that so many people took an interest in our personal lives. I think that was our first introduction to the audience relating to us as people. And we were surprised by it.
And I think
And delighted, of course. You know, it was very kind.
there was that very pleasant and unexpected reaction to the wedding. But I think it really, it kind of really hit home and coalesced in the minds of the viewers, I guess, that we were a team and we were married and we were together in a professional as well as a personal team with the Queen's visit. We had an inordinate amount of mail after we broadcast the visit of Queen Elizabeth to Boston. And I
When
think
you did
that's
that together, you...
Yeah, we did it together, and I don't know why, but that kind of became the catalyst for, I think, fixing in people's minds
The two of you
fact that
together.
that we
On-screen
were
together.
together.
And then you would stay together. I think that's
And
the
we
other
didn't know
thing.
that after the Queen's visit. We were hoping that would work. It wasn't quite that smooth a road, though, to where we are right now.
Yeah, well, we'll get into where you are right now. It's a full hour, and I know Nat's wondering how we're going to fill this.
How are we going to fill?
I want you to be my wife because I love you. It is as simple and as profound as that.
Is terrific and it's awful because of the responsibilities. Because on the one hand, you are the representative to the public of your newsroom, of your station. You are the front for many people's hard work. On the other hand, you are the public's representative to that newsroom. It's only right that the upfront people are held responsible in the public's mind because they don't know who's behind the scenes. They know there's someone there, but they don't have a name and a face. They've got a name and a face here, and that's right.
It's like being the quarterback of a football team. You get too much of the credit, but you also get too much of the blame.
Responsibility as news anchors. You know, I talked to you both about this last week, and I would love it if you would share it. Some people have said that, Chet, what you did was a very nurturing kind of thing with Natalie. I mean, once you got through all of what you just admitted was a bit of resentment, you turned it around in a very caring way and began to work together. How did that manifest itself?
Well, I guess it manifested itself ultimately by our marriage, but
profession.
no, I know what you're saying. That resentment, and that really is, resentment is really almost too strong a word. I don't know, it was a lot of things. It was the old Channel 5, you know, going down the tubes, and it was coming to the new Channel 5 with the new owners, and that certainly was the background for whatever resentment there might have been, not only for Natalie, but I think for all of the people who were here that represented the new group, especially those who didn't have a great deal of experience. But I saw very quickly that this was not a flake, that she was a serious professional and was, well, no, you know, I'm being very honest and very serious, and she took her work seriously.
What sorts of things, Natalie, did he talk to you about? If he was nurturing, how did he go about that nurturing?
I didn't know he was nurturing.
Yeah.
That's why it was done so subtly.
It was
Yeah, it was terrific of you, Chet.
Well done.
All right, but there was someone that you said really, at times really reamed you. I mean, taught you, but you credit this man. You talked about this man, Sam Donaldson. You told me about him. Why? What was it about him that you respected or that you were grateful for?
Well, so many things. He was just a true professional. And this was my first television job in Washington with a guy named Sam Donaldson. It was not at ABC. It was for WTOP-TV, the CBS affiliate. And Sam was not a big star. He wasn't terribly well known as he is now. But of all the people in that newsroom, Sam Donaldson and a fellow named Jack Jury, I recognized pretty quick as being very, very serious about their work and people from whom I could learn. Sam had a funny way of teaching. I mean, he would scream and yell and holler at me and say, you know, you're never going to make it, and this is really the wrong approach. But doggone it, I learned from him in 3 years.
He wasn't your boss. He was
No, not at all. Well, he was in the sense that Sam was the weekend anchor man in Washington, and I was his one and only reporter. And in those days, I was also a photographer. We used to go out with the camera.
Right.
And shoot some pictures and then come back and you know, shoot pictures with one hand, take notes with the other.
Sure.
And, you know, and Sam used to holler at me, Sam, if I had 3 hands, I couldn't do what you're asking me to do.
Well, we asked Sam if he would be here today. And he couldn't be here personally, but we want you to watch a message that he sent to you, Chet.
Okay.
Sam Donaldson.
Chet Curtis worked with me in Washington in the early 60s at the Washington Post television station, a CBS affiliate. He was with me in the press gallery of the United States Senate that November day in 1963 when the word came that President Kennedy had been shot in Dallas. And together we watched Edward Kennedy, a young senator, stiffen up, close his papers. He was presiding at the moment, and rush out of the chamber. The next spring, Chet worked with me in covering the Civil Rights Bill, the great one of 1964. We alternated on a live camera on the Capitol steps, along with Roger Mudd, in providing reports. Roger, of course, was doing it for the network, and Chet and I for the local station. Chet Curtis got to be very good in Washington. So good, in fact, that I, for one, was happy to see him move on. We're always glad to see our colleagues do well, but when they get to be terrific competitors like Chet was and is, we just as soon they do well someplace else. So, Chet, congratulations. I know you're doing well in Boston, and I hope you do well in Boston for years to come.
Oh, isn't that nice?
And that's the words of Mr. Walker.
He is, you know, I know there are a lot of people that think that he's a very cold-hearted kind of guy, which is not at all the impression. He's a difficult guy to get to know, but he's extremely bright, extremely well.
The greatest challenge I've ever had in my life. It is the greatest joy I've ever had in my life. They give you so much back.
You know, I went to the classes with Natalie, and you know, I was with her throughout labor. I was with her in the delivery room. And that, to me, was something that, if I lived to be 800 years old, I mean, I'll never, ever, ever forget.
That's Lindsay Dawn with Chet and Nat. We appreciate you allowing us to do that, by the way. You also allowed us to photograph the pictures that you had from the birth. I'll never forget that morning when you were still in the hospital and Chet appeared on Good Day. And I told you before, he has a way of making me cry that I can't believe, but we're both sitting there weeping as he's talking about this moment.
Well, the birth of a baby has a way of making me cry,
right,
too.
I guess that's making everyone cry. But we have those pictures. Talk about this moment now, would you, as we look at these?
Well, it's just incredible. You know, as any woman who's ever been pregnant knows, 9 months is 9 years, and you're scared, and will the baby be all right? And
But that's me, by the way, holding the baby.
Yeah.
That wasn't the doctor. It was...
And, you know, and then I didn't know that when a baby's born, the eyes are wide open, and it was pretty clear that she could see and she could focus. She riveted her eyes on Chet, who she saw first, and then that one quick picture you saw her look, that one right there, looking over at me, and that just flipped me out. I think, that's a real person that's been in my belly all this time, and here she finally is.
Did you have any reservations, Nat, that it'd be hard to carry on your career, which was at full stride at the time that you had Lindsay Dawn?
Well, no. Before she was born, I thought I could do everything. I had the reservations come now.
We talked about it, but only marginally. It's true. Natalie just felt, no problem.
Well, I think what it is give me those Kleenexes left. what it is that...
How about a paper towel?
Before she was born, thank you. You think of organization. How will I do all this in terms of time? And that's, I've been a busy gal all my life, so that was not so hard to think, well, I'll organize this way, I'll get up at this hour, But what nobody can tell you is that, that a baby is, not in a schedule. She doesn't want you between 8 and 8:15. She doesn't... She's just not in any kind of a schedule. And the other thing no one can tell you is how much you're going to love your child. And when I
torn a little, huh?
torn a little, torn a lot. To this day, Lindsay's 3 years old, and I leave for work still with tears in my eyes. I miss her, which is not to say that I hate that I'm here or that I hate my job. My job is part of who I am. I worked a long time, 20 years at this or some form of work, and. So it's not like you can say, for years we talked about the great debate, will you be a career woman or will you be a mother? Well, we're people.
It's emotion.
And our jobs
Natalie,
are part of us and our
your
children
own
are part of us.
has passed on, but you've had a special relationship with your father through the years, haven't you?
Oh, with both my mother and father. I tell you, I would never make it today in my life if I didn't have the parents that I had.
Well, your father recorded a special message for you. Could we hear that, please?
I've had the pleasure of knowing Natalie since the day she was born. And what a dancer.
Oh, would you join us? Bill Salatich is here.
Bill Salatich is here.
Aren't you sweet? Hi, Dad.
How are you?
Good.
Hi, Bill.
Hello, how are you,
Welcome.
Bill?
Nice
Great
to
to have you here.
Nice to see you.
Here,
where
what
is
I
it?
met earlier.
I think you're sitting
Oh,
on my
you
lap,
should sit in
next
the
to
middle
your
here,
next to your daughter.
Oh, my.
Next to Nat.
Well, Bill, did you think that she'd be a professional dancer when she was a girl, or did you see the budding journalist?
No, I knew she wouldn't be a professional dancer because she dances about like I do.
See, I told everybody you dance well, Dad.
What was she like as a little girl?
Well, a little bit.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and how that served as a base for Natalie.
Okay. I might also say before I get started that I'd love to be able to say that I'm happy to be here, but that would only be a half-truth. Because since I got the phone call 2 days ago, worrying about sitting here is not conducive to good sleeping.
Us two of us didn't sleep last night.
One more day and I wouldn't have made it. Well, I was born and raised in Chicago. My parents were Serbian immigrants, what is now Yugoslavia, and came to this country about 1910 or so. My dad died when I was about 4. I got out of high school when I was 16 and went to work for Continental Can in a factory. I met a beautiful woman, a beautiful person, Natalie's mother, and we got married when we were 19. And I went off to service, and my mother did tell me that where 2 sleep, there will be 3, because she didn't think I should get married going into service. I said, no, Ma, don't worry about that. And of course, before the year was gone, Natalie was aboard. After the war, I worked in the Chicago area. I drove a cab, ran a bowling alley. In '47, I had good fortune and went to work for the Gillette Company and spent 33 years with Gillette, a wonderful, wonderful company. That gives you a little bit of a sketch of my background.
And did rather well at Gillette, we might share.
He's very modest.
Thank you. They're good people, and they were very good to me.
Mr. Salatich was you were the president. You ran Gillette, didn't you?
Yes.
All the whole company.
Dad won the Horatio Alger Award, too.
Yeah.
Really? Great. Come from good stock, Nat.
Yeah,
What
thank
is it,
you.
though, Nat and I were talking about what you share with Lindsay about your mom, because that memory is very important to you, and I know that you've discussed this with your dad, too.
Well, we're a very close family, and I think that a lot of it comes from our Serbian background. The church was not just something you go to on Sunday, the Eastern Orthodox Church. It was part of our lives, it was part of our teachings, part of the way you live, the kind of people. Oh, wow, look at that, some old
there's
pictures.
baby Natalie.
And my mother and father always put, you know, the family was first, and my mother was real old-fashioned. Dad was king of the family. And she used to
Which is
remind
as
us-
it should be.
remind us that often. You never work in this modern age, Dad.
Let me pick this up here. That
you get
last
that ugly
slide, we lost
picture?
it, I guess.
Yeah.
I hope forever.
Well, we can probably get it back, but why? What do
Well,
you
that's
want
all right. That was Natalie when she had finished high school. I wanted to conclude my little lead in that Natalie's background as a youngster was in a working neighborhood in Chicago, ethnic neighborhood. And at a very early age, she learned how to work and to cook. And she learned the Serbian language, to read and to write. She learned our dances. And I think the background really evolved into a great sense of values that I think has stayed with Natalie throughout her life up until now, and I think is reflected in the work that she does.
That's a lovely thing to say, and it's true. But you didn't finish my question. About your mom, what you share with Lindsay. So I'd like the audience
Well,
to hear.
you know, I regret so much she's not here to know my Lindsay. And since Lindsay's been born, I've talked to her about her. What my mother and father, what they both taught me was how to love and how to be forgiving and how to understand people in the whole context. And my mom was, more than any person I've ever known, had the ability to get through all of the baloney in life, if you were quick with her or your temper was short or whatever, she would see beyond that. And she'd think, well, there's a reason that you're behaving that way. And she'd reach out to that reason. And she'd get somehow, whether you were the butcher in the local grocery store, her next door neighbor, her daughter, or her husband, she had a way of bringing out the best in you. I wish I had half of that. If I could give half of that to Lindsay,
But you do encourage the memory, don't you? A lot, which is so important.
She's with me every day.
Well, there's someone, Chet, that is important to you when you were growing up, and that was your cousin, Joan?
Mm-hmm.
Joan is socked in, truly, in Albany, New York. She was supposed to be here. She's fogged in. But she is on the telephone. Are you not, Joan?
Yes, I am.
Oh, will you tell Chet that you really were trying to get here?
Yes, I was.
Oh, that's too bad, Joan. If I had known, I could have flown out last night to pick you up.
Then you would have been fogged in.
No fun. That's right. Nice sweating.
Joan, what was Chet like as a little boy?
Very talented. Very much fun. Very easy to get along with.
And special to you. How about for you, Chet?
Well, Joan is as close as a person could be to being my sister without being a sister. Just by way of background, my own mother died when I was 8 days old, and my dad passed away when I was 15 years old, and I was an only child. And after my dad died, I went to live with my uncle and his wife, Joan's mother and father.
Who was Aunt Mame,
Who was Auntie Mame, right, my very own Auntie Mame. And Joan and I, there's a couple of years between us, and we're about as close as brother and sister.
And Aunt Mame sends her love, doesn't she, Joan?
Oh, yes. She's very sorry she couldn't be there.
Well, we really miss your being here, and we hope that when the fog clears, you'll make it in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Will you try to do that?
I'd love to.
Thanks for calling in, Joan.
Thank
yes,
you, Joan.
A lot. And knowing Chet the way you, any excuse for flying, right? I bet you go out and get that plane and go up and get her.
I've got time between 11 and 2 when I have to be back.
Well, maybe we'll arrange that. We were talking about family and all of those things that matter and the things that you really try to instill. And you have a good relationship with siblings too, don't you?
My siblings?
Yes.
Oh, terrific. Absolutely. I have the two best sisters and brother in the world.
Yeah? Why?
Unfortunately, they're in Chicago. My whole family's in Chicago. Dad lives there too. So I don't get to see them as often as I'd like, although we do see each other probably more than most families in that kind of a distance situation, about 4 times a year.
You talk on the phone a good bit, that sort of thing?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
That's our phone bills will test. And theirs.
We have a lot of fun together, too, and it's just great. We really can share a lot of feelings and anger and, problems that come up in life and fun things. When something great happens, we're, quick to get on the phone and say, hey, guess what just happened?
Do you suppose it comes from both of you with backgrounds that really were struggling in the beginning? I mean, Bill, you did achieve success, but that early, as you said, ethnic working class background, I think it keeps your feet on the ground. Chet, do you feel that way too?
Same kind of background. Mine was not so far away from Serbian. It's Polish, and it was in that very same context, that I grew up, and I think that's another thing that attracted Natalie and I to one another, because our backgrounds, our ethnic backgrounds, our beliefs, our values are very similar. Yeah, but they've got both feet on the ground.
Very much so.
And they're great kids, and I think it'll be there when they need it.
Also, in addition to a terrific father, the older girls have a great mother, and despite a divorce and a separation, that I think the strength of their two parents really helped them. And if you were to know the two girls today, who are 22 and 19, you'd say, boy, to have 2 kids like that in this day and age, with 2 feet firmly on the ground and clear heads and happy people, they're
great.
up kids, And
Chet
that's
talks
really
a lot about his change in perception of fathering, and I'll bet, Bill, you went through this too, that driven kind of struggle early on. And then you told me that one day you just said, in fact, you told a story about, was it Dana or Dawn?
It was Dana. Dawn was too little at the time. As a lot of people, when you're first in a career, there's nothing else on your mind but that career, and you're driven to reach whatever goals you set for yourself. I was working in New York City at the time for CBS, for WCBS in New York, and I had visions of being, Walter Cronkite or a network correspondent. And I was working 6 and 7 days a week and doing 12 and 14 hours a day, and went through a period where, for about 2.5 or 3 weeks, where I don't think I was home about 8 hours. And one day I was home on a Saturday or Sunday morning, I can't remember, and we were having breakfast together as a family for the first time in several weeks. And Dana, who was a little kid, looked at me and said, Daddy, are you ever going to have another day off someday? And that's when I decided that the job's great, but it's second to...
And that is Dana you're seeing right now. But next to her is her sister, Dawn. And we thank you both for being here. And we also, we have something for you. Again, Nat. Is this like Christmas?
Yeah, really.
Yes.
Wait till you open this package.
Wait till you open this. Would you put
Another
your
baby.
hands together?
We got a
and,
puppy instead.
no, not yet. We're saving the surprise. Is that what we're doing?
Hello, big sister. I've got a tough question for you. Guess which brother has come to visit you? And I brought along someone.
Billy's here?
Hi, Natalie. It's great to be here and share this moment with you.
Come on, Gene, it's not great to be here. This is torture.
You're right. Let's go home.
Okay.
Welcome, Gene and Bill from Chicago.
Aren't you guys something?
We're all half dead.
He wasn't kidding when he said it was half torture. I know what they're going through.
Really? They were not the ones that wanted to be on camera, huh?
Here, Chet, why don't you sit there?
Wait a minute. I have to
Gene, are
mic
you
up
just,
Gene.
does
Put
this
that
make
on.
you nervous? Yes, it does. Really? But you're so proud of Natalie. I mean, it doesn't just watching her and her ease on camera give you a sense of it's okay to be on camera?
Excuse me, I have to walk in front of somebody.
That's
now.
right. Come on. Doesn't it?
No.
Doesn't help, huh?
I never thought I would wish I was at work before.
Gene, when Natalie was a little girl, did she have to be the center of attention? You know how there's always one kid who kind of has to get in the middle of the spotlight? Was that her, or was that one of you two?
No, there was an 8-year difference here. So
Yeah.
when I was like 10, Natalie was on her way to college. But
Yeah.
she did kind of punch through the rules of the house, though, and made things easier for Gene. Kind of softened up Pop over here.
Yeah, the oldest does tend to do that.
You know, I was so worried. Billy was the only boy, and I wanted to make sure he was all boy, you know. I used to take him out in the backyard and play football, and I'd throw the football hard at his head, and Mother would say, "What are you doing to him?" I said, "I want to make him, you know, I can make him tough. He's a boy." She said, "Please."
I might add
go ahead.
that Natalie, of course, was our firstborn, and we had a struggle. She wanted a date when she was 14 or 15, and I didn't let her date till she was 16. However,
It was easy.
however, when it was all done and Gene came along and Billy came along, she was my greatest disciple. She was much tougher on them than I ever
Really?
was on her.
I remember that part.
Something.
It was interesting.
Bill or Gene, have either of you been interested in following in your big sister's footsteps? Any interest in the journalism business or the TV business?
No, I never had. It's a lot safer in the pits in Chicago than being out here.
Now, what do you do,
What do you do,
Bill?
Bill?
I'm a commodity broker at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange.
You must have a very strong voice.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
He did have.
I was
Are
out
you
there.
one of those guys who the screaming and the yelling and
That's
the
him.
48,
Yeah.
40? Really?
Yeah, one of them.
Boy.
I wouldn't last 3 minutes in that.
Me
in
neither.
that pit. I went out to spend a day with him. You know, you're exhausted at the end of 10 minutes. God bless him. I don't know how he does it, but he does.
Hey, Gene, what do you do?
I work for Motorola Incorporated in Chicago, and I'm the training administrator in a department called the Software Resources Development Department.
When I asked Chet who would surprise Nat the most, who's her closest friend, Chet said her sister Jean.
Yep.
Isn't that nice?
We are.
And
You
then-
talk a lot about
Yeah.
a lot of things.
We do. We've shared just about everything in our adult life. As kids, of course, we're kids. You know, always to beat each other over the head a lot of times. Not quite, but our relationship as there we are, Gene. But our relationship as adults, like from college on, has been fantastic. And my guess is that was really cemented in childhood and experiences that we can't remember.
I've
And
got
my
one
brother,
I remember.
What's that?
Well, we used to have different chores around the house, and there'd be 2 people that would wash the dishes and clean up the table, and one would have to dry. And one thing I do remember, and she was getting tougher even while she was still in the house, is it was my turn to dry. I had the idea I'd just let the dishes just stay on the countertop and let them drip dry, and then come and just put them away.
Good
Well,
idea.
Natalie and Gene didn't quite think that was the right thing to do. So when I showed up about an hour and a half later, there'd be Natalie with a big glass of water poured all over the dishes.
Cold water, I mean.
which would force me to pull out the dishcloth.
But this is Dawn and Dana. Dawn, what are you doing now? You're a student?
I'm a sophomore at Boston College.
And what do you want to do?
Actually, I'm a communications major. But I'm not exactly sure I'd want to have their jobs, but something related to the field, I think.
What kinds of things does your dad tell you about getting into a job and being a good person? What kinds of things does he use as advice?
Mostly just to be myself, and, he supports me in everything that I try to do, and is always right there, ready to lend a hand if he can help, and leaves me to be by myself if I need that too.
Dana, you're just out of college and you're looking for a job. What kinds of things does your dad share with you?
Well, I think he's very practical, which is helpful in my situation, but he's also, as Don said, a good confidence booster, and if I think I want to do something, he's ready to say, go ahead, you can do it, and that's good to know.
You ever had any tough times with the girls at all, Chet?
Oh, yeah, but nothing that, nothing so, I guess the tough times that I have with them is you know, separation. For example, even, you know, when we took Dana to college and I had to leave her in Middlebury, Vermont, and I thought, oh my God, my baby's going to be here all by herself with all of these guys. And
he was unfit to live with for 2 weeks, I'll tell you, Dana.
Dawn spent the summer waitressing on Nantucket, and I'll never forget the first, you know, back this past May when I left her in Nantucket for the summer, and I said, this is ridiculous. I mean, am I a good father leaving this girl here in Nantucket? She said, yeah, Dad, you're a good father. Get going. I'll be fine. And she was, and, you know, she had a great time. I'm terribly proud of both of them.
And Lindsay's sitting right there next.
Lindsay is over here. Morning, Lindsay. Are you okay?
That's not fair.
No.
Natalie, she wants to fill in for you.
The lovely woman that's holding her is Kathy Vigliano, without whom we could not survive. She takes care of Lindsay when we're at work.
Kathy, is Lindsay pretty good child?
She's a good kid, for sure.
And quiet.
That's now, because she's intimidated at the moment.
Also, we have one of Natalie's very good friends here. And your name is?
Jane Henry.
Jane, what kind of friend is Natalie?
Natalie is a terrific friend. The only problem with Natalie is that she's so busy she doesn't have time.
You two are close friends, aren't you?
Yeah, you're talking about picking up where you left off. Jane and I have just been close for a lot of years, and you know, we wish that we could see each other a couple times a week. And what we found is that we have to make an appointment for a time, or else too many weeks go by. Jane's a television producer. In fact, she produced this show
Jane Caper. Jane Caper before it became Jane Henry, right? Yeah, it's good of you to come down from New Hampshire today.
But one great thing about good friends is that you understand each other and your places in life and what's happening to you in life, and you stay there with each other.
Yep, hang in there.
That's your first baby. Yes. I don't know if it's too personal to ask. How old were you when you had the baby?
No, it's not too personal. I'm afraid the world knows it anyway. Let's see. I'm 41 and Lindsay's 3, so what, 37? 37 when she was born. That's right, I was 30. She was born in May and I was 38 the following August.
Share the story that you told me when you said this guy called up one night after the news.
From Washington?
Yeah.
Well, it was much made about the fact that I was an older person having a baby.
Geriatric pregnancy.
Yeah, right, commonly referred to. And right after the news at 11:30, someone said, you got a call or a live radio show coming from Washington or Oregon. So I picked up the phone, and man said, we've been discussing older women in pregnancy. Now, how does it feel to be in? I said, how old do you think I am? You know, much was made of that, you know, and really today, I guess being 37, having babies, not that awful. It certainly wasn't for me.
That's it. I would have heard off till I was 60, but I decided to do it at 50.
This is kind of something for both of you, but here's an hour with family around and people talking about very personal things. Do you think that it's appropriate that people who are news anchors should be celebrities?
No, I don't think it's appropriate in the sense that it interferes sometimes with gathering news. But you're right, it is inevitable because unlike a newspaper, people watch the person that's giving them the news, unlike you know, reading an author. So sometimes it gets in the way, sometimes it helps because sometimes people, newsmakers, will see you because they recognize your face and say, sure, come in and you can get an interview where you might not otherwise. But, you know, it's like everything, the pluses and minuses.
It is inevitable. You do have an intimate relationship, in a sense, with your audience, with these people. You know, we do show up in their kitchens, in their living rooms, and sometimes in their bedrooms.
And in this business, being a television reporter as opposed to a newspaper, is when people know you and see you on the street and recognize you and talk to you, and you conversely get to talk to real people, not just numbers in a area. I think it makes you feel more responsible about what you do. You know, if I do a story on South Boston and I'm in South Boston the next day, you can bet that they're going to discuss that story and how I covered it, and they'll give me their opinion. The same in other parts of the city as well, and I like that. That's great feedback because you're talking to the people about whom you're reporting. And you can't take that lightly, and it makes you think about that. And every word that you write at that typewriter in the newsroom.
Bill, Natalie's career could have taken another direction. Isn't that right?
Well, there's an interesting story there. Natalie went to the University of New Hampshire, and at that time I was in Europe and got a wire from Bill saying that Natalie was Miss UNH. Oh. And that she was going to compete in the Miss America pageant in New Hampshire. I had just become president of the Tony division within the Gillette company, and we were the sponsors of the show. So, of course, I almost had a heart attack. I said to Dawn, she can't compete in that because we're sponsors. We got to Boston, we shot up to New Hampshire, and the show went on. She did a takeoff on Judy Garland, which shook me up a little bit when I saw my daughter in black tights in front of 500 people. Then there were 5 left, and then 4, and then 3, and then 2. And then Lenora Slaughter, who ran the
Miss America
pageant at that time, got up and said to the audience, it'll be a 5-minute pause. And that the judges were mixed up a bit. And finally, the announcement was made that Natalie was the first runner-up. I guess what Natalie doesn't quite know until perhaps now is that maybe, just maybe, some things were switched at that moment because she could not go to Atlantic City because we were sponsors of the Miss America pageant, and I've never told this or suggested this to Natalie until now.
That's a scoop.
Well, I didn't know that story that that Dad told till now, but I tell you, one thing I remember from that pageant business is at the University of New Hampshire, you first become Miss UNH to go on to this thing, and really it's basically a, you know, just a fun thing. No one ever thinks you're going to do anything more than that. But what I remember most is my sister Jean was in the audience. She came up to UNH that day. I was scared to death. I cannot sing a note, as Chet will attest to, and here I am belting out Judy Garland song. I tell you, I think God paid me a visit that day and jumped right into my throat. And when they announced that I had won, I looked in the audience, and there was Jean. She was crying.
So excited.
She was so excited, and you know what mattered to me was not that I had won that thing, but that my sister was so excited for me. I'll never forget that moment as long as I live.
I sat next to one of Natalie's sorority sisters, and I wonder if that poor girl still has the black and blue marks. I was so excited, I think I just beat her to death next to me.
We are almost out of time, but I'll bet there are a lot of people who would like to know what the two of you plan for the future.
Sure, this is home for us, and we don't have any illusions about this business. There will come a time when we will have outlived our usefulness in front of the camera, but there are things we can do behind the camera. This is home for us.
And we've both made a conscious decision to be here. We've been lucky along the way and have had offers to go to other cities and to the networks. And each time we've made the decision to stay here because we like it here. We think we do a good job here. We feel a lot of affection for this area and the people in the area and the work that we do here. So we're happy here.
And we're glad for that. We really are. And it's not just, I don't say that as a part of the Channel 5 family, but I say it because I think you both are very responsible, and there isn't an ego that goes on in this building with the two of you. You're accessible and you're nice to everyone, and it's terrific.
May I add that we Salatitches feel lucky that we have Chet Curtis in our
All right, I'll let Chet and Nat, and thank you, Bill and Jean and Bill Salatich and Chet and Nat for letting us in, and Lindsay. Thanks. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, studio audience.
Thank you for coming.
See you tomorrow.